Welcome back. It's been a while. You know that it will take something quite special to bring us out of retirement. And special is definitely the word that I would use to describe EuroBass 3. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use EuroBass 3's new expansive feature set to take your music to the next level. I'm also going to tell you about the exclusive sales that we have running for viewers later in the video, so make sure to stick around. The first of these, of course, is that all current owners of EuroBass 2 are entitled in perpetuity to 50% off EuroBass 3. That is our thank you to you for making all of this possible. EuroBass, of course, is our flagship virtual instrument product. It's something that made submission audio possible all the way back in 2018. EuroBass is now completely resampled and reprogrammed from the ground up into something truly revolutionary. Because EuroBass 3 is in every way an improvement over EuroBass 2, there is a wealth of new features to talk about. So let's get straight into them. EuroBass 3 is a Native Instruments contact sample library, and when you load it up, this is what you'll see for the first time. As you can tell, late 90s inspired steampunky UI, thanks to yours truly being a massive fan of the Matrix movie and of course the Fallout game series, so you are very welcome. Those of you who know what's going on have already identified the bass. I'm very happy to say that we have official licensing for the first time ever from Spector, and I can reveal to you what you've likely known all along, is that the EuroBass is a Spector Euro 5LX. More specifically, it is my Spector Euro 5LX, the bass that I bought over 10 years ago to be my studio workhorse that's been on countless records and saved my life many a time, and is now, through the vessel of EuroBass, actually done the same for many other records and AAA video games, astoundingly. So this is the EuroBass 3 variant of it, and believe it or not, the textures have actually been pulled from the instrument, so everything down to the wood grain itself is exactly the instrument that you're hearing. So I'm very impressed with our 3D modeler for doing that. It's a bit of a subtle touch, but honestly, I think it's completely worth it, especially for me, because I'm looking at my own instrument here. So that ties in to our very, very first massive feature update. Those of you who've used Grove Bass or Umansky Bass in the past will know what this is all about, but those of you coming from EuroBass 2, this UI layout might be quite alien to you, and that's completely fine. I'm here to explain. The first thing you're probably drawn to is the fretboard here, and it's not just an aesthetic thing, this actually has a functional purpose. It's for you to check out the instrument for the first time. Now, this leads to our first and one of the most impressive new feature sets of EuroBass 3. Check this out. Exact same note, performed on 4 distinctly different positions on the fretboard. We have multi-sampled the entire fretboard of the entire instrument. This literally is a virtual version of my Spector Euro 5LX, and make sure to rewind that for yourself in case you don't believe what you just heard. I don't know of anybody else doing this, but it was 100% worth it, and it ties into our very next feature that we're going to talk about, which is the position knob. The position knob you can think of as a virtual capo that moves up the fretboard and prevents the instrument, if it can, from playing any notes or frets beneath the capo position. So essentially what this means, the further up you drag it, the more it tends to preferentiate the higher frets, giving that kind of higher, rounder, genty type sound, whereas the lower you keep it, the more it gives you the A and the D and the G strings and that kind of zingy open sound rather than actually playing everything further up the fretboard. Instead of me trying to explain this to you, let's just take a listen. So this is the open position. This is basically what EuroBass 2 defaulted to. Now I'll drag it up. Here we go. As you can hear, it completely changes the tonality of the riff and the performance, much as it would in real life when you choose a different fret position to play on. So this leads into one of the very coolest things you can now do with EuroBass 3, which is one-to-one match the fret performance to your guitar tracks, meaning that it can marry itself better to your riffs than ever before. No longer will you have that one errant high note that sticks out inexplicably. You can quite literally choose exactly where you want to play it on the fretboard. Pretty cool, I think. So far, these have all been the basic features. I'll be going over the truly insane, mind-blowing stuff that EuroBass 3 is capable of a little bit later in the advanced section in the video, so make sure to hang around for that. So humanize you can think of as a velocity randomizer. The further you go from machine towards bassist, the progressively more incompetent the performance becomes, or realistic some might say. I personally like it right on the border of human and bassist here, but your mileage may vary. So let me show you very quickly what that kind of sounds like in the first chorus of this song. This is fully machine-like, and now fully loose. So it's a very, very subtle touch. We don't want it to sound like it's completely out of things, but keeping it somewhere between 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock is generally best. Now, if for some reason you want to go in the complete opposite direction, you want less variance, you want perfect low end, you want to shrink the round robin count of the actual instrument, we got you for that as well. Say hypothetically you're working on EDM or industrial music and you just want absolutely perfect low end. You don't care about how robotic the bass sounds. You can engage the Doom mode, which is spiritually named after a project that EuroBass 2 was used on that we're all very fond of at Submission Audio. So I'm going to show you this on that same section, all the way from the loosest. Here we go, and so you can hear how robotic it becomes, and that's intentionally done by us. So if you're working on organic band-based music of any kind, you don't want it to sound robotic, stay away from Doom mode. But if you just want crushing, super tight low end on your electronic or hypothetically industrial metal-infused music that you make for a first-person shooter soundtrack, Doom is really good for that. To the left of Doom, we have the alternate picking engine that you would know and love from EuroBass 2, with one major new addition, which is the automatic mode. Automatic mode essentially is a 99.9% best use case scenario option that analyzes the information being fed into the instrument and picks the best way to strike the string for any given situation. If for whatever reason you happen to disagree with automatic mode, we also give you the option to custom map how every single note is struck via key switches, which I'll get into a little bit later. Now, one thing it does behoove me to say here in alternate picking mode, while I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, we have overhauled the basic alternate picking engine and the essential samples that we feed into it. This means that for any given performance that you feed from EuroBass 2 into EuroBass 3 with no additional humanization or position alteration, it will sound better and it will sound immediately more lifelike, and substantially so as well. If you want to learn more about this, check the link up here or in the description down below where I'm going to leave it. It's a video where I compare directly EuroBass 2 to EuroBass 3 so you can hear how much better this thing actually is. Now things are starting to get a little bit boring, they're starting to drag. I've been talking about the technicals and the features for too long, and as exciting as they are, it's never quite as exciting as hearing something in a full world-class mix, which is exactly what we're going to correct right now. So what I'm going to do is take the DI of EuroBass 3 out of Kontakt and process it outside through the Darkglass Ultra, the B7K. You can just recreate these settings. You can literally take them and put them on the instrument yourself. It'll work great. We're running that into double tap right here. So let's take a listen in stages. This is just with the B7K. This is with the B7K going into double tap. Super transparent compression, just tightens everything up. Absolutely perfect. And of course, we're going to do a little bit of tightening work with the EQ, which sounds like this. Give it a bit more of a mid-honk and remove the extremes. Now, let's take a listen to this in the mix. Man, God, I'm impressed at what our team has been able to do here. So as you can hear, When you treat it like a real bass coming out of the instrument, it's essentially going to sound indistinguishable from a real bass in the mix. We're finally at that point. It's taken long enough, half a decade, but we finally seem to be here. Now, to celebrate how well double tap pairs with EuroBass 3, what we're doing is an exclusive offer for you. If you buy EuroBass 3 with double tap in the same cart, you will get 50% off double tap. That is our gift to you. And of course, if you own EuroBass 2 already, you're already entitled to 50% off EuroBass 3 itself. That means 50% off both products bought together. What more do you want? Let's get back to the feature set. So we've gone over processing EuroBass 3 outside of Kontakt, but what if you're really lazy like I am? Well, luckily we have pre-packaged, just like with EuroBass 2, two pre-mixed tones. The one difference is that we're now generating these tones, internally in Kontakt, which allows you the ability through the mixer tab to actually control certain elements, which I'll show you in this section right here. So as you can tell, this is our clean tone, and this is what it sounds like. You can get very corn with it. So, what these mixer tabs do is essentially exactly what their descriptors say. The tone controls how much high-end focus there is, compress controls how much the tone is compressed internally, and girth essentially controls how thick it is. And for the first time with one of our clean tones, we've actually enabled you to do something that used to be a favored technique of bassists of old. So what you can essentially do is turn on the drive section right here and then blend it up. So very 90s grunge, very Alice in Chains. This bass, of course, these days would be characterized as a dad bass, for very good reason, because it's just a tried and true amazing instrument. But one thing that people used to love doing in the past is essentially blending their clean tone or their DI tone with full distortion via a stomp box and just using a blend knob to bring that in slightly underneath. So you still get the zing and the clarity from the clean tone, but with the grit and the mid bump from the distortion. And now you can get that through EuroBass 3. So if you want something a little bit more purpose-built and you want something to blow out your eyes with this amazing red, there we go, all the lightning, we're going to jump to, let's jump back to verse 2, I think. So this is more of a purpose-built distortion type sound for heavy music. I have a feeling, knowing our audience base, that a lot of you will be living in this space here. So let's take a listen to what this sounds like without the guitars. So as you can tell, I've been listening to a lot of 90s Meshuggah lately. We can, of course, crank this up. The mixer tab is very useful here. So one of the biggest complaints we got about EuroBass 2 was that it didn't let you increase or decrease the amount of distortion, and now you can do it to your heart's content. That's Meshuggah right there, like 2.2. That's like Chaos Sphere. So, tone. Come on, that's like, oh, come on, man. That's like Future Breed Machine. All right. Anyway, so we got compress. And of course, girth controls the mid honk. So you can get a pretty gnarly sound out of this. And one thing that you're probably noticing here is that the Spector has such a beautiful mid character. Even though it gets very gnarly and aggressive, it's never really in the upper mid range, so it conflicts with the vocals. So let me show you that in this verse. We'll actually bring in the vocals and the guitars and kind of mix around it. Oh, it's just good. Now bear in mind that we're going to listen to EuroBass 3 fully mixed in this song a little bit later on after we get through the feature walkthrough, so hang in there. Now that we've well and truly heard what this thing is capable of tonally, Here comes the advanced section. Here's where we talk about the humanization features and the nifty stuff that you probably didn't see coming. So this is all up here in this section. The key switch map shows you all of the articulations that EuroBass 3 is capable of. So we'll run through them together. But the first thing you need to know is that you can actually switch these key switches from momentary to latching. You can choose what note they correspond to, so you can custom map key switches. Perhaps if you like to perform live on a keyboard and you have a certain kind of arrangement that you like. And of course, you can also control what color these are as well. And then there's actually a record button here, a MIDI learn, if you will. So if you press this, you can actually press the key on your keyboard and we'll map it immediately to that. Very nifty. Thank you to our programmers. Very convenient function there. So we, of course, have the standard pick alternate articulation, which is essentially what the instrument defaults to. So for most people, you don't need to worry about this. Here is where you can control whether you want it upstroked or downstroked. So like I was saying, you can get super OCD with this instrument. As before, we have the dead notes. For the first time ever in EuroBass, you now have slap bass. You can do slap, dead slap, pop, dead pop. I don't have any slap bass programmed in this session, but I encourage you to try it out for yourself. It's been a long requested feature and it's finally here. So from here, we have the classic harmonic. We have legato, hammer, pull, tapping, which you can employ anywhere on the fretboard. It's been multi-sampled, just like all the different fret positions, so it sounds equally realistic. If you decide to do all your tapping and legato on one string, it will sound different to having it play across the different strings. So experiment with this. The world is essentially your oyster. Moving on from here is the really big one, and I'm actually going to demo this for you. So the slide trigger. We have completely overhauled the way that slides work. If you've used Umansky bass or Grove bass, you probably already know where this is going. But if you're coming from EuroBass 2, this is about to blow your mind. So take a listen to this. If you didn't hear that over the mix, just take a listen to it in solo. So let me show you with the MIDI performance what's actually going on there. We strike a note right here, this green one, and we decide to slide up to this red one over here. But underneath it, we have the slide trigger key switch. So instead of just playing the two notes over the top of each other, the first actually slides to the second. So then we have a brand new note that slides down very quickly. So you can actually control the speed of this slide based on the velocity value of the note that you're sliding to. So as you can see, we have a very slow slide happening here. We'll do an even slower one. So there we go, and then faster. So as you can hear, you get a ton of flexibility with how fast a slide can be. And if you want a very specific velocity curve to the slides, you can actually program the notes fret by fret, each and every note that's a constituent part of that slide, and control its velocity level. It's absolutely crazy the amount of flexibility we give you, but you can literally match your guitar slides one-to-one that you do in real life. Dig into this feature. Once again, the sky's the limit, and the programmers have done an absolutely stellar job. Now, the very last key switch that we didn't talk about is the long-awaited palm mutes. This is something that you've been bugging us for the longest time. In principle, I didn't want to do this because I'm very adamant against ever palm muting on bass guitar, but I kind of hate that you made me do this because it actually sounds phenomenal. So let me show you what our palm mutes now sound like at the end of this song here. We're going to load up our processing chain and I'll just play it with the mix. No guitars, no vocals, and yeah. Palm mutes are about to come up. Here we go. And that went back to regular notes there. Look, we sampled the palm mutes with the exact same round robin and intensity that we sampled our regular alternate picking articulations with. So you're quite literally getting a whole new batch of articulations there with 100% the same utmost realism that EuroBass 3 comes with. I don't know whether I'm insane for having done that. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you're going to get any use out of this, because this actually took a really, really long time for us to put in. So I really hope that you guys get some use out of it. The slides, the palm mutes, the slap bass, these are all the big new additions to EuroBass 3 for the people that wanted those articulations. For people who don't really care about that sort of stuff, even just the basics are so much better. The instrument in and of itself, based on the alternate picking engine, sounds immediately better next to EuroBass 2, so make sure to check out that video I told you about where I compare them side by side. We also have the fact that you can program the notes on different parts of the fretboard to match your riff. We have the humanization functions, the anti-humanization functions. I mean, this is a brand new instrument. It is essentially a revolution. So I sincerely hope that you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed talking about it in this video. Going back to the settings menu, we have another extremely important feature to talk about. You remember when we were talking about the position knob, how I told you there was a way to force each note to play exactly on whatever fret of whatever string that you want? Well, the force string key switches is exactly how you do that. You can see force B, E, A, D, and G. If you program these underneath your notes, it lets EuroBass know exactly where you want the note played, allowing you to match your guitar performances one-to-one. And as before, you can actually assign these to other key switches as well. Moving on from there, we have the bass tuning section. Much like Grove bass and Umansky bass, you can actually retune the guitar itself, which I would heavily recommend, matching this to the tuning of your song so that the fretboard view actually makes sense, so that you're actually allowed to do the kind of slides that you would actually be able to do given the tuning range that you're in. Beyond that, you have the bend range, which is for the MIDI bend parameter, which you can program into any DAW, or maybe you have a mod wheel on your keyboard, which is mapped to it. This actually controls the maximum bend range. So a normal range is generally about 2 to 4. I would recommend not going any higher unless you want some really wacky effects. Because you've been super good and patient, we can now listen to a fully mixed EuroBass 3 in context with the song. Let's do it. And that concludes this walkthrough of EuroBass 3. Let me know what your favorite new feature was in the comments down below. I know there's a lot to pick from, so it can be pretty tricky. Sincerely, from me to you, thank you so much for helping make this company a reality. Don't forget that if you own EuroBass 2, you are entitled in perpetuity to 50% off EuroBass 3. And if you want to combine it with our amazing compression tool, Double Tap, if you put it into the same cart as EuroBass 3, you will get both for 50% off. So, once again, thank you so much, and I sincerely hope that you enjoy using EuroBass 3. And of course, tag us in on socials at Submission Audio whenever you create awesome music with it.